The talk will be in two parts. The first part, I will talk about digital cities of the future, and for the second part, Norbert will also give a complementary view of the smart cities with a hybrid model. My part will concern the work that we do in the EIT ICT labs, where I lead, as Laurent introduced, the action line, digital cities of the future. So this is my email. This is my name and my email. If you have any questions, so please send it to me. We will have also, after the two talks, 10 minutes of questions. So please, if you in mind you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. My talk will be in different parts. So at the beginning, I will give a very brief introduction about this new agency, what we call the EIT, and also about the KICs, the proposal that were granted by the EIT. And then I will give you some elements about the digital cities of the future, what we do inside this action line, and what also the new projects in the future. And I will end my personal work in this digital cities. I mean my personal scientific work on networking. So this is the EIT. The EIT is a new agency. I mean, new. It was created in 2006 by the European Commission in order to propose some work on how to deal with education and research to make innovation. And they make a call for projects, maybe in 2008, if I remember. And then we construct those projects. And December 2010, they grant 3 KICs. So one of them on climate, the other one on energy, and the third one is ICT Labs. So ICT Labs is on the information and communication technology. This KICs, we have many partners. So the partners are inside nodes. What we call a node is like Paris, Berlin, etc. And today we have 6 nodes, 6 core nodes, core partners. And then we have also associated nodes, which are London and Bucharest. In those nodes, we have partners from industry, from research, and also small companies, or clusters of small companies. And those nodes also propose what we call the co-location centers. In those co-location centers, we could, have facilities to work together. So instead of having like in one area in Europe, what we call the KIC, they try to distribute this in different co-location centers. And if you need to work with someone else, you could go to those co-location centers. So we have one in Paris. This is the picture of the one in Paris. And we are working with Digiteo and with Maurice to have a new co-location center also in Saclay. So basically next year, we will have the same in Saclay, in order to have facilities to work inside the KIC ICT labs. So inside the KICs, we have what we call the action lines. The KIC is working with action lines. So we have action lines for education. We have also action lines for research. We have action lines for innovation, or they call it also business. And also we have what we call the thematic area action lines, which are like an application domain. So we could do, for example, education, we could do research, and also innovation in order to optimize, for example, the smart spaces or the smart energy, or the health and well-being, digital cities of the future, and also the future media and intelligent transportation systems. So we have inside those action lines we decide, for example, to study the transportation systems, and we have to propose some applications in order to reduce, for example, the time in the transportation system or the pollution, etc., etc. In the digital cities, we have different kind of applications. It could concern, for example, the security. It concerns the pollution, transportation, the resource management, like the water, electricity, etc., etc. And in this action line, we wanted to add like an added value comparing to the other works that are done in the world. For example, you have some big companies like IBM proposing many works on the digital cities. So we wanted to have this added value, and this is why we decided to to create what we call the citizen-centric model. So we wanted to give to the citizen in the city more democracy in different kind of areas. It could be, for example, to collect data, to participate to decisions. So we wanted to use the ICT technologies, for example, to increase the facilities on the infrastructure, the network infrastructure, to offer to the citizen the possibility to collect or to make actions. We want also to use what we call the database or data mining technology today in order also to optimize, for example, the use of those massive data, because if we open the infrastructure for the citizen, everybody will want to, for example, give opinion, to give reporting, et cetera, and then behind that infrastructure, we will have a massive data. So we have a volume of data that is very huge, and then going to the data and make some search will be something very tough. And so we have some work about how to optimize the data management. We also need to make some model on the trust, for example, how you could trust the information that's coming from those citizens. So you will have some cheaters, for example. You will have some people that they want, for example, to give a wrong information. We also need to make also what we call the very intelligent interfaces. For example, the man-human interfaces. So this also a very important topic in this model. And also at the end, we have also to create some business model, for example, to engage citizens. I mean, because we could create the infrastructure, we could create all those tools, and then if you don't have any citizen behind working on the tools, I mean, the tools will be somewhere and no one will go to use them. Let me talk about the citizen-centric. So the citizen-centric is something very, very new, very recent, but it's getting more and more popular, not only in the ICT. For example, if you go to the institutions today, some governments, they are also proposing this new system for the citizens. So we are talking about citizen-centric governments. So for now, it's only something like a website. So the government is opening a website in some countries, and they ask people to, for example, report some problems that they find, for example, every day in their area, when going to school, for example, to put the children, and then they see something wrong, so they could report. Also, this website could also inform citizens about the new action of the government, and also to have some feedbacks about those actions. So we have also what we call the open data, which is very, very popular today. Many municipalities, for example, in Europe, and also Paris, for example, is an example, but it's also the Helsinki, Stockholm. So they open the data, for example, the data of the transportation system. And then many people, they want to, for example, program some software in order to propose to the citizen how to optimize, for example, your transportation time. For example, in Paris, we have connections between subway, between buses, between air-to-air. And if you, for example, from your smartphone, you have an application to tell you the arrival of the bus, or if you could program, for example, your itinerary, and then you could obtain the optimized way to reduce your transportation time. So you have today many applications. Also, you have what we call the pollution swatch, or the green swatch. I don't remember the name. So people, they have a swatch, and then they could collect information about the pollution, and then this information is reported to like a website to inform, and then you could see, for example, that in that area today in Paris, you have a big pollution, and in that area, everything is clean, etc., etc. So the idea today is really to realize this citizen-centric, but with the ICT tools. So we are going to, for example, increase what we call the peer-to-peer communications, because today the communication is only from the people to the network, and then if, for example, I want to send a packet to someone in the room, for example, for Laurent, I need to send the packet to the network, to some operator, and then the operator will send back the packet to Laurent. But it's easier, of course, if I send you the packet directly, because I will consume less energy, less resources, and also this space is completely free. So if you could, for example, have a direct communication between people, this is what we call the wild networking today. So it means you could create wild networks on demand. And also, in all the smartphones today, you have many sensors. So we could sense many information in your environment, and then with this information, you could, if you have the ability to communicate with the infrastructure or with this peer-to-peer communication, we could collect those information very easily, and we could create very important and intelligent applications. So, of course, we need also to increase the willingness to inform and report. So the citizen has to work on the information that he could collect, or etc. And also, he could make some actions. So I could give you an example. If we have a network, for example, sharing the firemen and the police, and also with the citizen. So if we have a catastrophe, like a fire or something, I mean, like in this summer, we had some festivals, and we had some problem in those festivals, and there are some dead people. So if, for example, people could help the firemen and the policemen in order to evacuate, for example, all the people from the festival, in order to avoid these mass problems, I mean, so we could open the network, and people, they could report. So, of course, behind, we have to develop some trust models to avoid the wrong information. And in that case, we could help the city to optimize the use of the resources. So how it could work? Today, for example, in our action line in the digital cities, we develop some activities. So those activities concern certain areas. For example, for the infrastructure, so today we are working on how to open the networks for citizen participation. So in that case, we will have like a large-scale networks, because we will increase the number of communications. So we have to deal with this large scale. We need distributed algorithm. We need to optimize the resources, because the resource to use to communicate will be very occupied. So of course, we need to create green networking, because today the carbon fingerprint or footprint, sorry, for the ICT is very huge. So if we increase the communication, we will increase the energy consumption, we will increase also the emission of CO2. So probably if we create some new networks, so we have to think about the green consumption of those networks. So also we have to use what we call the virtualization in order to avoid repeating the same infrastructure 100 and 1,000 of times. So on the same physical network, we could create on demand, for example, virtual network in order to serve this or these applications. And also we have the open data. So Ioana Manilescu is going to make a speech. So she is also a part of the digital cities and working on the open data. So probably she is going to mention or to point to some work on the open data. So of course, if we collect more and more data, so we have the problem to have how to collect and how to also to make the data mining in those data. And we have also the identification. I mean, how to identify a citizen in a unique way, and to make trust and privacy about the information that this citizen is going to put on the network. We also need to develop services and the human-machine interfaces that are very intelligent. So we will see some applications done by Norbert in his speech also. And also we need to create some business model to engage citizens. So as I told you, if those tools are not used, so this will not be a success. And the applications, of course, could be the transportation system, safety, education, tourism, and cultural life. So I will now only move to the infrastructure, so because this is my area. So I will tell you about the work that we do, for example, in this action line. So today we have what we call the Internet of Things. It means that the objects could communicate together in order to optimize resources, for example, in the city. So, for example, I give you some anecdotic example. Today we go to the supermarket many times because we have to buy such kind of things, and this consume energy and time, etc., etc. So if our fridge, for example, could communicate with the supermarket directly and order all the things, and then the guy to deliver could come for one time for all the building, for example. We could optimize the time that the guy delivered for all the building at the same time to avoid, for example, using the car many times. So this is what we call the Internet of Things today. So in this Internet of Things, we need very scalable infrastructure because we'll have many things to communicate. In few years, we will have something like the equivalent of 100 of sensors, 100 of objects per person. So what we do today, for example, the communication today will represent in the future like 10% only of the communication. I mean, the human communication will be a very small part comparing to the communication that we will do between the things. And we will have also, we are working on the wild networks, so how to communicate between the object directly without going through the infrastructure. So we have we work on the peer-to-peer communication and how to connect this peer-to-peer, for example, to the existing infrastructure. The interferences also, because more you have objects that communicate between each other, more we have interferences. So we have to deal with the interferences. We have to have a very accurate estimation of the capacity of the network in order to make the quality of service, for example, how to go from a source to destination with the widest route, for example, with the fastest way. So this is what we call the quality of service. So if we could estimate the environment, if we have a picture of the environment, so then we have the topology with what we call the metric estimations. And then on that topology, we could select routes, for example, to go from source to destination with the maximum quality. And then, of course, we need to reduce the energy. So today, the work that we do is we consider, for example, like kilowatt per hour, like a resources. And then when you create your problem in the network, so you have to optimize everything. I mean, you have to offer the same quality than before, but by consuming less kilowatt per hour. So this is an example, for example, for the quality of service. You could have different flows going from source to the city infrastructure. So different sensors, for example, different computers, different smartphones of the people, and then we do the wild networking between laptops or between smartphones to go to the city infrastructure, and we have different routes dealing with different quality of service. We could have the voice over IP, we could have alarms, we could have other applications. And then we could also make what we call the traffic aggregation. Is something like very similar to the road system. The road system in the city. The road system is, for example, today, if you go to Paris, when you put signs on the streets, you indicate to the people coming from outside Paris only some few roads, like what we call the principal axes. And then we go to those principal axes and we free all the other streets from the pollution. So this is what we could do also with the networking today. If we have many traffics, if we could make the traffic aggregation in order to group all those traffics, for example, on the same routes, and then we could free the other machines and we could stop those machines in order to reduce the energy consumption, but also the wave pollution. And the virtualization is something like you have, for example, the physical networks, and on those physical networks you could create what we call virtual machines, and then on demand you could move from a machine to another machine. For example, the yellow one or the red one could move from that machine to the other one according to the demand. So on demand, we could create different virtual networks on the physical networks. So I have a video only to show you what our work today. So here you have a topology of a network, for example. You have different sensors or different machines. This is okay. Thank you. Oh. And then you have those capacities estimations between the nodes. And then the nodes could, for example, switch off the power. So they disappear from the network, and then they reappear again because of the demand, et cetera, et cetera. So you have this dynamicity in the network, which is, this is a video from an implementation. I mean, this is not a simulation. You have really an implementation, and you have this network is working. And you have gateways, for example, to go to the internet, or the city infrastructure. And then you have the machines, for example, with like a Wi-Fi interfaces, and they are connected to each other, and you have the topology with the capacities. And so today we are also developing an application for the safety, for example, how we could make a mass evacuation. So this application will be available, for example, on smartphones, something like iPhone or Android, et cetera, et cetera. So on those smartphones, you will have the topology of the network, and someone, for example, organizing a festival or in the city, I mean, you could, for example, put some coordinates for the exits, et cetera, et cetera. And then when the application is running, so citizen could, for example, indicate some problems to say, okay, here, this is my last slide. So here you have some problems, and then you don't have to go there. We could also say, like, in that area, for example, you have congestions. So if you want to have a connection, so you go to that area, et cetera, et cetera. So we are working on this application that probably will be, we will have probably in the EIT, I mean the KIC, a demonstration at the end of the year. And that's my last slide, so let me introduce my guest, Norbert Streis. So he's from Germany, and he's more, he will give you a talk on a complementary view of the smart cities and hybrid model. And he's more coming from the machine-man interfaces, which is how to propose some nice services. So he has a very nice videos in the presentation. So please.
Thank you.